If the church is to be a living organism, as Apostles Luff and Oakman said, in order to grow, it needs to be healthy. And then Rick Warren goes on, and he says, and I don't know where he got the quote from, because he doesn't say, but he said, the church is a body, not a business. Rethinking. It is an organism, not an organization. He's quoting Oakman there. I mean, I don't know that he ever knew what Oakman had said, but we know that Oakman predated Rick Warren's book by several decades. And so the evidence is there. And he goes on and says, it is a lie. This is Rick Warren. If a church is not growing, it is dying. Makes sense. I don't think that has to be a statement that I would have to take to try to prove. And so, how we then view what it is that we do, not just here in Apopka, but in the center place, in the Philippines, in Kenya, in Australia, and all the nations of this world. So, we lay that out. A few years ago, I was thinking about the experience of Enoch in the Old Testament, the book of Genesis. And I wondered about the experience that Enoch had, and I thought to myself, Lord, am I missing something? Is there something that I don't understand? And so I read the 6th, 7th, and 8th chapters of the inspired version of the Bible, and I came across a trail, footprints. The verse comes from Genesis 7, 4, and 5, and this is Enoch's experience. And he talks about that he went up on the mount. And as I stood upon the mount, I beheld the heavens open, and I was clothed with the glory. The power of God came down upon him, and all of a sudden he was transformed and became whatever life he had before that. He became even more alive at that point. But we know that something more was going to happen with Enoch, because it was going to go from him to a people to a city. And so what we find later, then in Genesis 7, chapter 7, verses 20 and 21, but the Lord came and dwelt with his people, and they dwelt in righteousness. And the fear of the Lord was upon all nations, so great was the glory of the Lord which was upon his people. So what happened is that you have Enoch, who had this glory upon him, and now his people have this glory upon him, which is the power of the Spirit of God in their life, which quickens the heart to make us alive. And then in Genesis 7:23, the Lord called his people Zion, because they were one heart, one mind. They dwelt in righteousness, and there was no poor among them. That is the living church. That is a definition. It's not the only definition, but it is a definition. The people were of one heart and one mind. That's the living church. They dwelt in righteousness. That's the living church. There's no poor among them. That's the living church. And all of a sudden we see that all what has to start to happen within the life of the church for it to be alive. I'm going to share in the sermon today some things about the experience in the Philippines. There are in conditions in places that we talk about third world countries. We have experienced somewhat similar to that in the United States. It's not at the level of, say, a ghetto, because I believe that there are levels even beyond that, and we know that the level of ghetto is pretty horrendous to live in. And we feel for those who live in those conditions. I'm thinking about the homeless. There are times that I go into places and the people have nothing. In fact, one of the young ladies I asked her a question. I said, do you have anything of your own? And she said, well, yes, I do. And she had sisters and that kind of thing. I said, well, okay. You got to get a thought. I said, well, what is it? She said, my toothbrush. Because she has sisters, it's really the only thing she doesn't share with any of them. The clothes get shared back and forth amongst the sisters. Because that's what they have. It's not hand-me-downs. So as they grow older and they get around the same size, it's handovers. Back and forth, back and forth. The Living Church is called to do something about those conditions. And so I read Genesis 7:23 and 25. So what we see is the process of what happened here. The glory and the power of God fell upon Enoch. The glory then fell upon the people. The Lord recalled his people. Enoch, it says in verse 24 of Genesis 7, continued to preach righteousness to the people. And then something happened. In Genesis 7:25, the city of Zion was built. It began with a living spirit in the life of the people. And it found its fruition in the city, the organization of that city, to where there were no poor among them. And that's what takes place in the Living Church. And it's to come forth. Now, that lays some groundwork. We are now at about 5 minutes to 12. I want to allow for everybody to have a few minutes to be able to visit, take care of things, and we'll come back and share in a little bit in terms of the window that heaven is open. Okay, thank you.
She's really into Minnie Mouse. She'll be happy to know. She hasn't met her yet. She's excited. This is Michael. I think you've met. Yeah, you've met before.
It's true. See, we said he'd go to you eventually. Once they realize you're, there's more than food. As long as there's no food.
Where you been?
Hi.
Pretty good for me.
Yeah, and you know, her grandchildren
So we heard you're in and out.
Yeah,